So in today's video, I have a DIY for you that I forgot to film an intro to. So this is the intro, stay tuned. To start this craft, we're gonna want 3 of these little trellises. These are a seasonal item, so you're gonna want to grab them ASAP if you see them. And I already had 1 package, so I have 1 all by itself. They come in a pack of 2. And you're gonna need 3 of these little pieces per ladder that you make if you're using a Critter Nation sized cage. If you have a smaller cage, you might be able to get away with just 1. Because what we're gonna do is actually fasten them to each other, like this. And that way, we're also gonna tie them together, don't worry. But that way you have the length that you want. The other thing you're gonna need is some sort of yarn or twine. I would recommend, if you're going to use yarn, only use a cotton yarn. We're not gonna use a lot of it, so for this it's okay. Twine or jute or sisal cord also works well. It's what I used on my other one, but I can't find my spool that I had. The one thing to note with that is that some of it kind of smells bad. So if it has a gasoline or an oily smell or a chemically smell, please don't use it with your bats, because those fumes can actually be really hazardous to their little lungs, just because of how sensitive they are. So next thing that we're gonna do, we're not putting it together yet, is we need to cut off a bunch of these. They're not sharp, but they're kind of pokey. And so for my sanity, I cut off almost all. The only ones you're gonna wanna leave are these 2 and these 2. You're gonna cut every other one off. So we're gonna do that next. And I'm just using scissors. This doesn't have to be perfect. And these are actually dollar store scissors that I have labeled for the rats with a little sticker. Because I like my label maker a lot. And I find it very useful, and I like to look for every excuse to use it I can. To get to these, I actually had to bend it just a little bit, but it still worked. You can see they cut off pretty easily, and it's a really thin, wiggly plastic, so it wobbles and it doesn't really break. And just make sure it's not sharp, which so far, it hasn't been, but if it is, you can always like melt it a little with a lighter or something like that. And then I'll clean up my whole desk when I'm done, because they go everywhere. All right, so here's one that is complete. It should look like this. You're gonna do that with all of them. All right, so now we have 1, 2, 3, and we're gonna do the next step, which is we need a decent sized piece of yarn for this. You're gonna think it's too long, but trust me, you want it longer than you think. It's approximately 6 feet long, which I'll put the calculations for that in centimeters here on the screen for you. And what we're gonna do is start by putting 2 of them together. So as you saw, this little flap here just goes over top of this. And the reason that I left these is because we're gonna actually use them to help attach the 2 pieces together. And what I'm gonna do is fasten it here, 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 and here. And I didn't use any fancy knot for this. I literally just kind of wadded my cording up. And then I just wrapped it through. Sure to hold my tail, because you want your tail. The first few are a little bit fiddly, as I like to say. It's actually a little early, so the sun is not quite as bright in the room right now. But we're gonna just go back and forth a couple of times around this way. Okay, I'm gonna stop here because I feel like that's pretty good. Turn my end, and I'm gonna see how much I have left. I used, out of that 6 feet, I used 3.5. So So 3.5 feet is plenty. And I'm just gonna tie it into a little knot a couple of times. I like to trim my ends normally at the end, but when you do trim it, I left a tiny little tail just so that it wasn't so easy for it to come unraveled. So now we're gonna do the next one. Now you could do whichever one you want. I'm gonna do this one just because I like to do opposite sides. And I tried to wrap in each direction about 3 times. I just find from sewing on buttons that seems to give a good amount of strength without overdoing it. Now we're just going to repeat that on this corner and this corner. I'm going to do this off camera because otherwise it'll get boring. So now I've done all 4 of these. That means this piece is complete. So now we just need to do the next one. And it's the same process. We're just going to attach this little flap over top like so. And we're going to tie it with some strings. If you wanted a if you weren't as particular about a natural look, you could probably use zip ties. But I am trying to go for that naturalistic cage look. I'm really enjoying that. It's a lot of fun and it makes me just feel more relaxed when I look at their cage. And the rats seem to really enjoy it, so it's a win for everybody. It's important that your decorating style not be dangerous or inappropriate for your pets. But if they marry together like that, why not? All right, I'm gonna do this one off camera again. Okay, now comes the fun part. We're gonna trim off all the little ends. You may wonder why I don't suggest using just anything to tie this together. And the reason is you want to use a natural fiber because natural fibers have what's called a shorter staple length. That means that the length of these little hairs, that you can see right there, is really short and they just pull apart. See that? That's important because if your rat chews on the fibers, you want it to be able to break very easily if they catch their toes or tails on it, and they can pull away from it without hurting themselves and causing damage. Fibers that are man-made don't often do this because they're made to be stronger and to last longer. So you want to avoid acrylic yarn and plasticky twines and things like that for this reason. You would think, well, it'll last longer, so it's safer. And while it'll last longer, it's not actually safer for our pets. So in this instance, natural fibers with a short staple length are what you want. All right, now you could just leave it like this. I'm gonna zoom out for a minute to see if I can get the whole thing. Boom. Now you get to see the tricks of the trade here. But we're gonna have some fun with it and decorate it a little bit more. I've used this vine is from Walmart. I think it was in the craft area hanging up on one of those like end cap things. And it was like $5 for this massive one. I've already used quite a bit for my other one, which I'll pop a picture up. If your rats are chewers, I would avoid this kind, and you wanna go for a more real, obviously fabric-y kind of flower. So I've also got these hibiscus flowers from Dollar Tree that I saw, and I just thought they were so summery and pretty. I have 2 of these because these are obviously shorter than this, but all I did was like looped it through. blue in a couple of spots. Now I'm going to do this end. I bet the rats will steal these flowers and run off with them. Put them in their little nests, which would be adorable. I'm going to zoom out. So this is the finished product. I think it came out really cute. I think the rats are going to really enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Bye.